Akabusi in the 400-metre hurdles with a totally unexpected victory over the excellent West German Harald Schmidt. And Chris is first of the blocks here today. Your commentators, Peter Matthews, Steve Ovett and Alan Parry.
Chris Akabusi admits that he got a tremendous lift from the Gateshead crowd on that glorious European Cup semi-final weekend. He's almost become like an adopted Geordie, and they've just given him a fantastic reception here. Akabusi drawn in lane 5 then in this lineup. Lane 1 is empty. Running for England in lane 2, the much improved Steve Hawkins, who's had a very good season. Angelo Locchi of Italy, lane 3. Lee Miller of Australia in lane 4. Akabusi, lane 5. Carosa of Italy in lane 6. And the 21-year-old Haringey runner, Lawrence Lynch, in his first year in the 400 metres hurdles, completes the lineup in lane 7. Lane 8 is empty. Well, clearly Akabusi, the class competitor of the lineup here. Indeed, he's the leading European in the event this year, as he was last year, when he magnificently reached the Olympic final in Seoul. Also a World Championship finalist. And at the age of 30, finding the form of his career in what's still to him a relatively new event. I think we forget that. Great roars have gone, Chris, the moment the gun sounded. On his inside, Miller, the Australian champion of this and the previous year, started well. At the moment, he's giving Akabusi the hardest ride, but Akabusi off quickly. Lawrence Lynch, the youngster from Haringey, out in lane 7, also made a good steady start. And it's England in the first 2 places at the moment. Carosa, the best placed of the Italians, with Miller, the best placed of the Australians. But it's England very much in the ascendancy here, and Akabusi goes by the 21-year-old Lynch on his outside. Good, steady pace. Miller still coming up on him on the inside there, so Akabusi will have to be strong over the final hurdle here, and he is. And still Miller presses in, but Akabusi wins it again by a big margin. Miller in second place, and on the inside, Steve Hawkins was the fastest finisher for third. 49.85, a decent time on a far from perfect day weather-wise. So Chris Akabusi gets England off to a winning start on the track.
Akabusi's confirmed winning time, 49.84 from Lee Miller, the Australian, and Steve Hawkins close to his best in third place at 51.05.
That's a good time for Chris. He told me afterwards there's a bit of a wind in the back straight, but the athletes tend to get used to that here in Gateshead. We have more athletics to come, but now it's time for the Super Prix in Birmingham. Things tend to happen in this event.
Part of today's all-action sports program that includes this track and field match here in Gateshead Stadium. The next event on track is the 110 metres hurdles. Tony Jarrett, the 21-year-old from Haringey, European junior champion, or former European junior champion, we have to call him now, because of course this year's championships have been taking place in Yugoslavia over the last couple of days. Jarrett runs here in lane 5. You may have seen him if you were watching our coverage of the GRE Cup final, running a splendid 200 metres, so he's in really good form. This is David Nelson, who was second in the 3A's championships in a personal best 13.57, and thereby earning himself a place in the Auckland team for England in the Commonwealth Games. Here's the full lineup then. Andrew Tulloch runs as a guest competitor. He's actually an England international in lane 1. Simon Poleman, we think, has actually withdrawn from the race because of injury, the decathlete, so I think lane 2 will not be occupied. Lane 3, David Nelson of England. Mauro Rei, the Italian number 1 in this event, runs in lane 4. Tony Jarrett for England in lane 5. Diego Pupo of Italy in lane 6. And Hugh Teague in lane 7. Lane 8 is empty. So obviously in terms of the match situation, the Oceania team won't be scoring any points at all in this event. And it's really, I think, as far as most of the 8,000 or 9,000 people in the stadium are concerned, an intriguing battle between 3 of England's best. We stress England because, of course, Colin Jackson is a Welshman. So too is Nigel Walker. And there's still some doubt about who will get the 3rd England place for the Commonwealth Games. John Ridley injured at the moment.
110 metres hurdles for men.
So the lineup again, Tulloch running as a guest in lane 1. Lane 2 is now empty. David Nelson, England, lane 3. Ray, Italy in 4. Jarrett, England in 5. Pupo, Italy 6. Teep running as a guest in lane 7. Lane 8 is free.
Third.
And the Italian responsible for the false start.
Number 4, please.
It's quite a complicated situation, this third England slot for the event, because basically David Nelson and Hugh Teep were the first 2 English athletes home in the trials. Tony Jarrett didn't run in those because he said he was injured, and there was a rumour going around that Jarrett had deliberately not run in the 3A championships in order to allow his teammate Hugh Teep to have the opportunity to win an England place. Now that inevitably annoyed John Ridgeon, who's actually a Haringey teammate of Jarrett's, and I understand that Ridgeon has resigned from Haringey as a result of that. Jarrett, I ought to say, has maintained his innocence all along and insists that he was injured, though he did run in Zurich a few days later and run very well indeed. But the whole situation has angered John Ridgeon, one of our finest athletes in this event, currently injured.
Third.
A bit of a jumpy start again. It could have been the other Italian this time. Pupo, number 3 there.
Would you warn number 3, please?
Indeed, he gets the warning. So the Italians responsible for both the false starts. There's no question, of course, that Jarrett deserves his place in the England team as an Olympic finalist and one of our very finest talents. He should be there by right anyway. But the question is, if Ridgeon is fit, should he go in the 3rd place? Or has Teep done enough to earn that? Selectors incidentally meet tomorrow to fill in the remaining gaps in the England team.
Third.
Third time, they're away, and Nelson seemed to make the best start. Jarrett in the middle going well. It's Nelson and Jarrett side by side almost here. A great battle between those 2. Nelson second from the right. Jarrett just getting ahead of him. Jarrett wins it. Nelson second. I think Teep may have got 3rd. 13.59 the time. Tony Jarrett has run a lot quicker, of course. His personal best 13.31. But on this occasion, it was winning that mattered more than the time. And that's exactly what he did. And he was really pressed as well there, Steve, by David Nelson. He gave him a good, hard, competitive race.
Well, this is a classic case of power hurdling, I think, from Jarrett. At one stage, he was literally karateing the hurdles instead of going over them, hitting them so hard, even from the start. I think it's the 3rd or the 4th hurdle. That's the 3rd hurdle going down that he really clashes. The 4th hurdle he hits as well. But the strength there of Jarrett actually carries him through, because if you look, Nelson is actually hurdling a lot smoother, a lot more relaxed. But the power towards the end really does dominate, and Jarrett really has got that at the moment. He's got the strength and the determination. I think he even eases through the line, and a good run at the end of the day.
1-2 for England. David Nelson particularly impressive there. Remind you, you're watching a bank holiday sporting double here, and we'll be back with Bob Hall in Birmingham for the Super Prix, the climax of the Super Prix, in what, just under a quarter of an hour's time at 3:05. In the meantime, let me update you with some of the best action here so far in the Kodak Classic. England against Italy and Australasia. Australasia really, Australians and a few New Zealanders thrown in for good measure as well. Let's start off with the men's 100 metres, and that means Lincoln Asquith. Now, Lincoln was Britain's #1 a couple of years ago before Linford Christie came along.
This should have been a great year for Michael Ross-West, building on his tremendous performance in reaching the Olympic final after just 18 months in the sport, but it's been ruined by injury. He came back too late, really, to give of his best in the 3As, in which he finished 8th, and therefore has failed to win a place in England's Commonwealth Games team. So he'll be looking for some consolation in this 100 metres, in which he's drawn in lane 1 as a guest competitor. Running for England in the match are Lincoln Asquith, who's in good form at the moment, in lane 4, and the 20-year-old Haringey runner Darren Braithwaite, making his England senior debut. Ross-West 1, Mancini, Italy in 2, Jackson, Australasia in 3, Asquith of England in 4, Hulot, Italy in 5, Naylor, the Australian, in lane 6, Braithwaite of England in 7, Guthrie, who runs as a guest competitor, although he is in fact Australian, nearest to the camera there in lane 8. The men's 100 metres. One false start already against Lincoln Asquith in lane 4. This time away. Ross-West there always finds it a problem giving of his best in this event. On Asquith's inside, Jackson, the Australian, leading, and Jackson just makes it. Ross Westcott second place, and Asquith close as well. In fact, on the line, Ross West was closer to the Australian than perhaps it looked from our camera angle. And when we see that again, he might even have shaded the Australian, who made the best start, certainly. Jackson third from the right there. Ross West always finds it a problem, a tall and lanky and rather ungainly runner, giving of his best over 100 metres. But once he gets into his running, then he is very good indeed. And he had by this point of the race. Jackson still leading. Most pressure at the moment coming from Asquith. All in white there in lane 4. And Ross West gaining all the time on Jackson here. Remember the angle a little bit steep here on the line. And, well, a photo finish, but I still think the Australian got it. Asquith third.
Alan's quite right indeed. Tim Jackson did win, 10.39 from Ross West's season's best, 10.40. Lincoln Asquith third, Darren Braithwaite fourth.
Linda Keogh, now indisputably Britain's #1 400-metre runner, and has gained so much in confidence and self-belief in the last couple of years that she's nudging the very highest international quality. She's back on the track where she ran a magnificent second place in the European Cup final to help Britain's women's team to their fine position. There's the lineup. No one in lanes 1 or 8 in this two-a-side international match. So it's Morabito, Italy in lane 2, Linda Keogh, England in lane 3, Kathy Sambell, the Australian, running for Oceania in 4, Cosetta Campana of Italy, lane 5, Angela Pigford on her home track, the Gateshead Harrier, running for England in lane 6, and then the 18-year-old Tanya Van Heer for Oceania in lane 7. They just had the most protracted false start I think I've ever seen. The starter, by mistake, fired the record gun instead of the actual starting pistol. And the girls had got halfway around the track, literally, or at least they'd run 100 metres or more before the starter realised his error and tried in horror to recall them. And they've made their way very slowly back to their blocks. And it'll be interesting to see what effect that will have on the runners. Angela Pigford settling again then in lane 6. Well, away in conventional fashion this time. Angela Pigford made a good start, so too did Linda Keogh. Both the English athletes showing very well at the moment. In fact, Keogh's already overtaken Campana and the Australian Sambella on her inside. And she's chasing Pigford down now. Very good first 200 metres for Linda Keogh, the 25-year-old Basingstoke athlete, who recently won her 3rd Women's 3A's title. She leads. Pigford under pressure now for second place from Campana, the Italian. Kathy Sambell in the middle there, the Australian wearing number 5. Keogh with a commanding lead here, which is going to win by a very big margin indeed. Pigford chasing hard. Sambell try and bring England home in first and second places. There's no question about the winner. Pigford gets that. Keogh gets that, and Pigford gets second place. Sambell third. 53.26, the winning time, and maximum points for England. Linda Keogh dominated that race from start to finish, and Angela Pigford fought hard in the home straight to overtake Sambell.
Linda Keogh's winning time, 53.23. Angela Pigford second, 54.22, and they were well clear of the rest of the field. Stuart Faulkner came into the long jump. He was striving really for distance and just having 3 fractional no jumps. So this was the 4th round. Oh, it's a good jump. Stuart Faulkner, who's been so regularly over 8 metres recently. An English record in Brussels at 8 metres 14 on the heels of his previous 8 metres 13 as he gets ever closer to Lynn Davies' British record of 8 metres 23. The 6'4" Birchfield Harrier here again showing 8-metre form. It's been measured, it's 8.02, so another magnificent jump by Faulkner, goes well clear in the long jump ahead of Paul Johnson's 7.52. So Stuart Faulkner now regularly over 8 metres in the long jump, and he's beginning to work his way up to top international class in the event.
Is 8 metres. Well, 8 metres
Phil Brown, the magnificent winner of the 3As, thereby ensuring himself a Commonwealth Games spot, runs in lane 2 for England here in this men's 400 metres. Full lineup is Brown, England, Rebo, Italy, Garner, Oceania, Crampton, England, Petrella, Italy, Perry, Australia. Phil Brown is an athlete who's had problems with self-confidence down the years, but he's admitted that that victory in the 3As has really lifted his confidence. He goes out much harder now over the first 200 metres than he used to. He used to tend to coast the first 200 and then come on strong in the home straight. Crampton in the middle of the picture, the tall Yorkshireman, also returning after injury, running very well here as well. He's overtaken both the athletes outside in Petrella and Perry. So there's a very good prospect of an English 1-2 here. Mark Garner of Australia in the middle, running well. Rebo, the Italian, fourth in the European club, second from the right. And if Crampton can keep going here, the Italian is looking strongest at the moment, Rebo, and Rebo just got himself in front. Crampton and Brown almost in a photo for second place. Well, it was a good finish by Rebo, in fairness to him, because it looked as though England were good for maximum points, but the Italian was strongest in the home straight. He kept his form when both Brown and Crampton were tiring.
Well, it's funny, I actually watched Phil Brown there around that top bend, and he did seem to be struggling going around the third 100, really, which is unusual for a 400-metre runner. They should be struggling in the straight, but Phil seemed to have lost form around there, and I think his confidence, as you said, Alan, was dented by the fact that as he came into the straight, Rebo, the Italian, was still working hard. Crampton on the outside there was really working hard, but he didn't really make a much impression, I don't think, on those two. But having said that, I don't think our boys will be all that happy with it. Looking at the replay again, maybe Crampton just squeezed in there, but it's pretty close. Our two boys run in second, but the times that they run, I don't think we can say that they'll be all that happy with it.
And there's the result of the 400 metres. Rebo the winner in 46.38. Peter Crampton in second, 46.55, and Phil Brown, 46.57. It's back again. Stuart Faulkner, after that 8.02 in the previous round. Let's see whether he can go further. It's so good that he's getting consistency over 8 metres. The early part of this year, Mark Forsyth was jumping better than him and was probably our number 1, but Stuart Faulkner has certainly come into form when it mattered, and seemingly in virtually every competition now is well over this 8-metre target. But he's got to get even further than that. He's got to have his eyes firmly set on Lynn Davies at 8.23, and then he's got to try and go beyond that into the sort of realms that people like Larry Myricks and Mike Powell and Carl Lewis are jumping, which means getting on towards the 8.50 level. That will be his target in the years to come. Improving his speed down the runway, and that's so important, of course. Good natural jumper, but he's got to get the momentum going, and he said he's getting his run up consistent there. And we're just looking out for the measurement to see whether it betters that. Yes, it does. 8.03 for Faulkner, so he increases his lead.
The winner of the women's high jump was number 1, Diana Davies of England.
And there, in fact, was the final result of the long jump. Stuart Faulkner, the winner, 8.03 from Bertozzi of Italy, 7.70, and Johnson of England, 7.52.
4 laps to go in this 3,000-metre steeplechase. The local man, Colin Walker, this year's 3A's champion, the Gateshead Harrier, leading. In second place at the moment, and running as a guest in the field, is Dave Baptiste, the Thames Valley Harrier, wearing number 7 there, who was 4th in the 3A's championships. The other Englishman here in the match is John Hartigan, wearing number 2. Steve?
Well, I think at the moment Colin's doing the right sort of thing. He's getting out front. He really knows that at the moment he's in great form, so he wants to sort of pushing on a bit, just to split the field up, because I think he may think that some of the other boys, the Italians in particular, might have a bit of a kick if it's a slow old race. So he's getting out there and doing the hard work, pulling along Dave Baptiste. But having said that, Dave's quite in good shape at the moment. That's why he's been put in as a guest. Because I think there's a feeling from people in athletics that Dave could make a breakthrough this year if he got into some of the good races. So at the moment the race is predictable, but Colin is getting out there and doing the hard work, Alan.
Actually, just while you were talking there, Steve, Colin Reeks dropped out at the top bend, and that's a sad sight. He used to be our number 1 world bronze medalist in the steeplechase way back in 1983. And He's had a strange sort of season. We haven't seen much of him, and now he's not going to be able to complete this race. That's sad.
Yes, it is sad, because Colin is a great talent, but like a lot of people in our sport, unfortunately, if you're not on form, nobody seems to want to know you. And I think Colin's gone through a period where financially and perhaps, you know, emotionally, he's been on a bit of a downer, literally, and so he's struggling a bit. But I thought he was going to come back this year, but as we've seen there, he's dropped out, so that's very sad, really.
That's a shame, because, of course, the third spot in the England Commonwealth Games team has to be filled by the selectors. So I guess there's a lot of incentive in this race, and there would have been a big one as well for Colin Reitz if he had a good run. Something happened and he didn't, so he's out of contention now. So the man running in second place, Dave Baptiste, has possibly an Auckland place very much within his sights. Colin Walker goes anyway, having won the 3A's championships, and Eddie Wedderburn, who finished second in those championships, is our other Commonwealth representative. So Walker leads with 2 laps to go, then Dave Baptiste, and then moving back some 20 metres or so to the rest of the group, led by Carosi, the Italian. Then Hartigan in 4th place. Just overtaking him is Neil Smart, the United Kingdom champion.
One interesting to look out for, I think, here is that Dave Baptiste has unfortunately faded quite badly on the last couple of laps of 1 or 2 of his major races. And of course, John Hartigan has obviously also got a chance for that England spot. At the moment, he's some 30 metres down. But interesting to see whether this time Baptiste can keep it going.
And Neil Smart is another who will have Commonwealth ambitions, wearing number 11. And now moved into 4th place, and indeed right up on the shoulder of the Italian. So it's going to be an interesting final lap here. Colin Walker, a prison officer locally at Durham Jail, in the lead. Dave Baptiste in 2nd place, Neil Smart in 3rd, and gaining on him all the time. 1 lap to go, and this is almost certainly all about that final ticket for the Commonwealth Games in this event. Walker knows he's going. Eddie Wedderburn, not in this race, knows he's going as well. But who will fill that 3rd slot? It could all depend on this final 400 metres. 26-year-old Gateshead Harrier with a big lead, and he won't be caught. And the real fascination is what's going on behind him. There, as the camera foreshortens the distance, you can see that Baptiste has already been overtaken by Neil Smart. Then the Italian Carosi in 3rd place. Baptiste, as Peter Matthews almost sadly predicted, is fading and fading out of contention. Back in the home straight, Walker will win by an emphatic margin. And the time's going to be very respectable indeed. His personal best, 8:30, and he's inside that. A new PB, 8:27.57. The Italian Carosi came through for 2nd, Neil Smart 3rd, Mike Hawkins 4th, Dave Baptiste 5th. So, a satisfied smile from Colin Walker on his home patch. He's got a new lifetime best, and that will do his confidence the world of good as he gears the rest of his year towards the flight to Auckland and the Commonwealth Games.
And a splendid result that for Colin Walker, 8:27.57, and personal bests also for Neil Smart, for Mike Hawkins, 8:37.15, and for Dave Baptiste, 8:37.59.
We've got Side-Eye Wheater against Peter Elliott in the Emslie car mile coming up from us here in Gateshead in about an hour's time, but now it's time to get the old earplugs.
Wearing number 2, and really in the light of everything else that happened that weekend, the Sebco victory and Steve Ovette's own controversial story, I think the performance of this young man was completely overlooked. And indeed, not only did he get the publicity he deserved on the weekend, but subsequent to that, a lot of people have doubted the wisdom of sending him to Auckland at all. And he's obviously been very upset about some of those stories, and he quite rightly says that he went out and did what was asked of him. He earned a place, and therefore he intends to be in the Auckland team by rights. Here's the lineup then, 7 men. In fact, there's a late addition to the field, so it'll be 8 altogether. He of Botswana is the late addition. Cicchini of Italy. Breed runs for Oceania. Steve Hurd for England. Barsotti of Italy. Yates is the other English runner in the match, and two guest runners, Nick Smith and Steve Crabb, who himself was forgotten in the 3As for his dramatic fall in the 1500 metres final. That was a shame, because he would have been a real contender for a Commonwealth place. So a bit of pressure, I think, on this young man Matthew Yates, wearing number 2, blonde-haired figure from Newham and Essex Beagles, who's just 20, because he will be wanting to prove that he can live in international competition.
And this will be a good test, because I think watching this race now, we've seen that Steve Crabb's gone right to the front. This is the way that Steve likes to run. He likes to push it hard, get a good time in, because I think his confidence has been slightly dented with some of the races that he's had on the continent over 1500 metres. He hasn't been running that well, and after his disappointing run in the 3As where he actually fell, I think he wants to go out today and show to everybody that he's in sort of the shape that would have maybe even shown that he'd performed well in the 3As, but he's taken them through at a respectable pace, and this is really going to test Yates to see what sort of speed he's got over the last lap.
53 at 400 metres after a 26-second first 200. Crabb leads. Steve Hurd, another who was involved in a controversial incident in that very race, disqualified in fact from the 800 metres when he barged his way out with 200 metres to go. Number 5 there is Paul Breed, running for Oceania, although he actually is a member of Coventry Godiva Athletics Club here in England. Yates now beginning to move up. Number 2 there at the back of the field, obviously inexperienced. He's improved his personal best by 3 or 4 seconds from last year, but there's nothing to beat, as I'm sure Steve Ovett will agree, experience. And Yates is moving up very well now, and after an initial bit of disquiet about his position on the first lap, he's coming to a very strong position. He's taken Crabb, he's got Hurd in his sights as well. He's really digging in here, he wants this, but Hurd wants to prove a point as well, and Steve Hurd wins it, Matthew Yates second, and he of Botswana was third. 1:47.78 the winning time, and Steve Hurd, the European indoor champion, gets a victory that sadly for him has come too late really to make any impact, of course, on his Commonwealth ambitions. Steve?
Well, that was quite an interesting race there. I thought Yates ran quite well for his first international. He sort of was a little bit too far off the back, I think, on the first lap, because it wasn't that fast, so that meant that the other guys were really going to try and power around the last lap, which was giving him a little bit too much of a tough job to come right from the back. But he did a good job here. He's coming wide around this last bend, almost all the way around this last bend. So that means that he's running 3 or 4 yards further than anybody else anyway. Then coming off the bend, I thought that, you know, he still looked quite strong. There's no fading there, and he's running close to his personal best, so he's showing the sort of form that a lot of people probably wouldn't have expected. But having said that, it's still a good run from Steve Hurd to finish first, but yeah, he's going to be our man in Auckland, Yates, so I think he's showing good form. And as they say, first who past the post got the Commonwealth places, and he deserves it.
A very confident boy is Matthew Yates, and I'm sure the experience of qualifying for the Commonwealth Games in Auckland will help him develop as an athlete. Well, we've had all sorts of weather here today, a bit of wind, the sun's come out just occasionally. Let's hope conditions are good for the big race in around about 20 minutes time. Peter Elliott against Side-Eye Wheater. Rejoin us then here at the Kodak Classic in a couple of minutes. And over there in surprises was Michael Roswest, the Brummie, reaching the final of the 200 metres. Since then, his form's been a bit inconsistent. He's been injured as well. But now Michael goes in the 200, once again looking to confirm an encouraging run a bit earlier on this afternoon in the 100 metres.
Michael Roswest returns to his blocks after one false start in this men's 200 metres. A very encouraging run for him earlier in the 100 metres. Just pipped for first place by the Australian Tim Jackson, who runs again here in lane 5, though Jackson is better over 100 metres, unlike Roswest, who is more effective over the longer sprint. The full lineup: McClooney, a guest runner from New Zealand, in 1. Tuna, Oceania, 2. Roswest, England, 3. Flores of Italy in 4. Jackson, Oceania, in 5. Callender, the other Englishman, in lane 6. Simeonato of Italy in 7. Adenikin, the Nigerian World Junior silver medalist, a guest runner, in lane 8.
Set.
Well, one can only wonder if Roswest had been fitter for the 3As, he would surely have been a major contender for a Commonwealth Games place. Jackson, the 100-metre winner, is leading him here at the moment, but Ross West looking good now in lane 2, second from the right. He's got a lot to do, though, in lane 3, rather. A lot to do on Jackson, and nearest to the camera, Adenikin sneaks up to take it. Jackson second, Callender third. So, the young Nigerian, looking strong in the home straight, pipped Tim Jackson and denied the Australian a sprint double. But disappointment, I think, for Michael Rosswest, having run well in the 100 earlier. Will have expected Steve to have gone a lot better than he did over his specialist event, really.
That's right. I mean, at the end of the day, it was a fairly ordinary time as well. And I suppose looking at the time and the way that he ran this race, he's got to think, well, you know, his season has been interrupted so much that really his form over the longer distance isn't as good as his form over the shorter distance, which is surprising when you consider that he was 7th in the Olympic Games over the longer distance. But look at him here, I think he's probably last at this stage. We were talking a lot about him, and obviously perhaps not doing justice to the outside lane here. And Adenikin, who actually ran an extremely good race from the outside lane without seeing anybody. But looking at that race there, you see that fairly poor performances, I must say, from the other runners. And Ross was back in, what, 5th place there? Is a bit disappointing, isn't it, really?
Yes, certainly disappointing. Adenikin the winner in 20.93 from Tim Jackson, the Australian. Clarence Callender third, and Ross West disappointingly back in 5th. Women's high jump, the bar had gone up to 1.85 metres, and the women's 3A's champion, Diana Davies, had failed twice. But everyone else had by then gone out of the competition, and Diana went clear and was the winner of the high jump by clearing that. 1.85 metres for Diana, the UK record holder for the past 7 years, and very much the most consistent jumper throughout the last decade amongst British women high jumpers. 4 times she's won the women's 3A's title, 4th in the 1986 Commonwealth Games, and she'll be going again to Auckland, and will be pleased to have got a victory today with that height of 1.85. Pretty close on it, just tumbled there, but she was okay. Teammate Michelle Wheeler, though, was only 4th equal at 1.75. Davies well ahead of Guy Kaepernick of the Australian, who was in 1.80 at 2nd place. So there's the confirmation of that result. Davies from Kaepernick, Beldo of Italy 3rd, and then Michelle Wheeler. So England got 1st and 4th places. Rather high standard, in fact, is the men's high jump, and here's Dalton Grant. The bar is at 2.30 metres. He's failed once. He's the only one left in the event. Oh, lovely clearance. Plenty in hand there for Dalton Grant, who won the European Cup here in Gateshead at 2.32 metres. Improved again to win the 3As, and he did 2.33 metres. He was 4th in Zurich, and he's certainly right up there in world-class form. Just spent a couple of days, in fact, supporting the European Juniors team. Back from that, and in good form. He's already won the high jump, therefore. Now he'll go on to see if he can improve his British record, and he'll have the bar, no doubt, set next at 2.34 metres. So we'll see whether Dalton can add another record.
Back live to the track, 3.5 laps remaining in this 3,000 metres. There's the time at 1,600 metres, 4 minutes 14. A lot of good British athletes in the field here as Dalton jumps again, Peter.
Yes, but no. Failure there at 2.34. He's got one more attempt as we go back now to the 3,000.
As I was saying, a good class domestic field here. Gary Staines leading at the moment, wearing number 2. Tim Hutchings alongside him, number 1. Then all in red behind them is Paul Davis-Hale. Number 8 is Gary Nagel. Then the Italian Del Sarto. Then Eddie Wedderburn, the steeplechaser, all in white. And the only other man in that leading group at the moment is Andy Lloyd, running for Oceania. He's the Australian champion. Then a long gap back to Jeff Turnbull next. Talking about the match, but really it's developing into virtually an invitation meeting, this, because in some events Oceania haven't even been represented, and frankly there's a big gulf in standards between some of the Italians, for instance, and the English competitors they face. And that's certainly the case here. Gary Staines still hoping to be named in the British, or rather the English team for the Commonwealth Games at 10,000 metres. He was 3rd in the 3As Commonwealth trials at both 5 and 10,000 metres, and I think he deserves that 3rd 10,000 metre place, and I hope he gets it. He's run pretty well all season. Steve, any thoughts?
Yes, I think Gary deserves it too. He's shown really in most of his races that he's in the sort of shape that really a third spot should get given to him. But having said that, he obviously didn't finish in the first two, so the place is really under question. But looking at the rest of the runners, I would say that perhaps Gary is the favourite for that third spot. And I think he's out here today actually to prove a point that he's in the sort of shape that would mean that the selectors have a hard choice not to select him, as it were.
Staines leading. Hutchings, who, remember, is already picked at 5 and 10,000 metres for the Commonwealths, having finished runner-up in both those events in the trials. He's in second place here. Nagel wears number 8. Number 10 in the middle there is Paul Davis-Hale, who ran in the 5,000 metre trial in the 3A's Championships and finished 5th. Eddie Wedderburn, number 12, who will be picked in the steeplechase. Dalton Grant is ready to jump again in the high jump.
Yes, that's it. Another British record for Dalton Grant with a third-time clearance at 2 metres 34. 3 times 2:31, then 2:33, 32, 33, 34. Tremendous form. But back now, Alan, at the bell in the 3,000.
Terrific effort there by Dalton Grant, and the runners will have wondered what that sudden roar from the crowd was, I'm sure. Into the back straight for the final time then. It's going to be a real burn-up finish, this. Staines leads, Hutchings second, Davis-Hale in third, then Lloyd, the Australian, then Nagel, number 8. The Italians still in there, Renato Gotti, and Eddie Wedderburn on the back of the pack as Davis-Hale chooses his moment to go. Davis-Hale, who we all know is very, very talented, but so often doesn't perform when it really matters. And here he is again, running away and showing a terrific finish. And he and his coach and his supporters must think, why can't he do this in a race that really matters? Because this is the kind of talent he undoubtedly has, but he just can't turn it on the big occasion so often. A big battle behind him for the runners-up places. Lloyd, the Australian, has got in front. Lloyd is second, Hutchings third, and the Italian just pips Staines for 4th place. 7:49 the winning time. Paul Davis-Hale, running as a guest, wins with a very impressive last 200 metres. So I can only repeat really what I said in the home straight. Why can't he do it when it really matters? But certainly one man who can do it when it really matters, Peter, is Dalton Grant, and what a great jump that was there. I think we can see it in a little more detail now.
Yes, Dalton is in absolutely magnificent form this year, and here it is again. This jump, which happened during that 3,000 metres, the bar at 2 metres 34. Yet another British record. Centimetre by centimetre he goes up, and it was a beautifully smooth clearance there, a really aggressive approach there, jackknifing over the bar. Let's look again from the sideways on camera. Very good shot indeed of the high jump, and Dalton Grant gaining in confidence, of course, all the time. So we'll see what he does later. Perhaps there could be even more to him later today. Back now to Jim.
That's right, Peter, we mustn't rule that out. What a great season Dalton Grant has had. He seems to have been breaking British records whenever we've seen him on our domestic leadings here on ITV. Well, Linford Christie rules the track in the men's 100 metres. Let's take a look at the women's 100 now. And Paula Dunn, she's really been in a class of her own for 4 years. She's coming back to the track where she ran so well earlier this year.
The lineup for the women's 100 metres features Paula Dunn in lane 4. She'll be the clear favourite for this event. The full lineup from the inside: Michelle Seymour of New Zealand, then Daniela Ferriani of Italy, Suzanne Broderick, the Australian champion, then Paula Dunn, Marisa Masulo of Italy, their national record holder, Melinda Gainsford of Australia, Diane Glazebrook of England, and another guest, Bev Peterson of New Zealand. That's the lineup for the women's 100 metres. And as I said, Paula Dunn is surely the clear favourite in this event. 4-time Women's 3A's champion, and a splendid second in both the 100 metres and the 200 metres in the European Cup here at Gateshead. She then ran her personal best time for this event of 11.24. Closest to her on paper is Marisa Masulo of Italy. Next to her, the national record holder at 11.29. The Australian and New Zealand competitors getting useful warm-up practice for the World Cup, where they'll be taking part for Oceania. Sulu had a false start, and she's away though quickly this time. Paula Dunn now coming to her running. Gainsford, Australia next to her, but it's Paula Dunn at this stage who's coming right through to win it from Masulo, with the other Italian, Ferriani, in 3rd place. So, a pretty routine victory there, I think, for Paula Dunn. The clock on the screen showed 11:63. The clock actually in the stadium shows 11:50. But whatever, it was another win for Paula. So, Steve, Paula Dunn retaining her fine sprinting form of the year.
Yes, Paula's had a hard season so far, and she still seems to be maintaining a very good form indeed. She ran last week for her club in the GRE Cup Championships, and here she is again this weekend, producing superb form again in the 100 metres. I suppose it is the ability of some of the sprinters to maintain that. We often see sometimes a lot of the sprinters losing form for no apparent reason, but Paula again finishing first and again dominating that race.
And the official time for Paula Dunn was 11.49. Churchill and Ferrian, the Italians, following in second and third, as Diane Glazebrook was eighth for the other England competitor. Triple jump, Jonathan Edwards, the 23-year-old who had to miss the European Cup because he won't compete on a Sunday. Luckily, the World Cup event is not on a Sunday, so he will be there. He's in great form. Oh, and that's another fine jump by Jonathan Edwards. Tremendous performance. He started with a no jump, 16:57 in the second round, but a very, very good jump indeed for John, who's jumped over 17 metres, but with wind assistance this year. Without wind assistance, his personal best, 16:86. He's the 3As and UK champion, and there it is, 16:91, a new personal best for John Edwards. Tremendous jumping from him. So that augurs really well for his performance in the World Cup. Edwards the winner very easily from Chirici of Italy and Monopoly of Italy, with Agupong and Macalla doing no jumps.
In this two-lap event. They both train together, they both run for sale, and they're very good friends, even if they are great rivals. So they will be trying very hard, not only to bring maximum points here for England, but also there'll be a little bit of private pride and ambition involved in this race for Williams and Edwards. Good to see them going positively out in front. I've no doubt they've come up with a game plan to share the work between them here and try and throw off the opposition. Baumgartner, Kerry Baumgartner, who was third in the Australian Championships recently and has a personal best of 2:04, moved into third place. The Italians obviously out of their depth, really, even with this quality of running. And it doesn't look particularly fast either. Anne Williams in the lead. Diane Edwards second. Baumgartner third. And then a gap to the two Italians. So the English athletes here with a stranglehold on the leading places as Edwards takes up the running. Just under 60 seconds for the first 400 metres. It's quite respectable.
It's respectable, but I think in this sort of opposition it would have been great for them to go out really hard and try and get a really respectable time here, because I think as they go into the second lap, really the other girls, including the Australiana girl Baumgartner, will drop back, because these two girls are 4 seconds faster than her, and they really should get out and get a good time, well under 2 minutes if they possibly could in these sort of conditions. But they've gone through in 60, which would mean that they probably end up with a time, I suppose, Adam, which will be around about 2 minutes, maybe a little bit under, or maybe just a little bit over. So it's the average sort of winning performance time that we expect in this country at the moment.
Both these athletes will be representing England in the Commonwealth Games in Auckland in this event. Diane Edwards really pulling away now. An Olympic finalist in Seoul last year, and the reigning Commonwealth silver medalist. Williams will hold on for second place. Baumgartner tying up a little. And it's going to be a good time, because that was a very fast final 200 metres from Edwards, and just under 2 minutes. Williams second, Baumgartner third. Well, she'll be pleased with that, Diane Edwards. She really put a lot of work in the final 200, and their reward was a sub-2 minute time for Diane Edwards.
And the time a little quicker even than shown, 1:59.78. Anne Williams in second, and a personal best for Kerry Baumgartner in third place at 2:02.72. First event of the day, as so often, was the men's hammer, and in very fine form indeed, Mike Jones. Interestingly, the last place for the Commonwealth Games very much remains open here. Paul Head and David Smith qualified from the 3As Championship. Shane Peacock's been our number one, competes in the European Cup and also in the World Cup. But here, Mike Jones is taking a real claim for the spot, because starting off with just under 70 metres, here he goes over 70 metres. And the finest form of the year, and he's shown off one that he can come and produce his best in the big championships, and it may be that this will be enough. Yes, 70 metres 42 to take the lead in the hammer competition. Paul Head also over 70 metres, 70-18 in the second round. With Peacock well back at 67.82. So the Shaftesbury Harrier going well. And trouble for Shane Peacock as we moved into the final round, striving for that extra distance. He's well behind the pace and 4 no-throws.
Coming up to take the 15
Oh, no, it's no good. Another no-throw, and Shane Peacock knows that he's not been able to get close to Mike Jones on the day, and that is very sad. And it's going to be a very difficult selection spot for the Commonwealth Games between, presumably, Jones and Peacock, with Head and Smith in the assured places from being the first 2 Englishmen home in the Commonwealth Games. And that would be very sad if Peacock doesn't go there, the 3As I should say, because Peacock has done so well this year and has competed with great distinction for Britain. 6th place in the European Cup, was valuable points there, and he's improved this year, but it may not be enough, and he has to settle for his best of 67.82. Meanwhile, however, Enrico Sculetti of Italy had taken over the lead from Jones, 70.54 in the 5th round, and here he goes in the final round. And that's fed up, and that was the winning throw from the Italian. 2 Italians, Serrani and Sculetti, were favoured to be 1 and 2. In fact, Serrani was behind Jones and Head. Sculetti came through to win with this final throw. He got over 70 in the previous 2 rounds, and the 6th one landed at 71 metres 66. But a really good scrap between the British athletes. Competing in the match with Shane Peacock and Paul Head, Mike Jones competing as a guest. Very much determining, we think, the Commonwealth Games selection. That will be picked tomorrow. Quite see what they do. But Sculetti the winner. And that was the confirmation of the result. Sculetti from Jones the guest, 70.48, Head 70.18, and Peacock back only 5th at 67 metres 82. Dalton Grant's now got the high jump bar set at a very, very ambitious 2 metres 40. 240, his second attempt. But really, this would be outrageous if he were able to clear this, but it's a brave attempt for him to go. He may well call it a day, I think, after those 2 attempts, because he has set that British record at 2:34.
And the crowd over there to my left really enjoying Dalton Grant's high jumping here. Don't forget the world record, though, Sotomayor, the Cuban, at 2:44. Dalton's still got to go a bit to reach those heights. Well, now let's start the build-up to the big race here at the Kodak Classic, the Emslie Car Mile. The greats have won this race over the years, stretching back to the likes of Derek Ibbotson, Kano, our owner, Steve Ovett and Sebco too. And now Side-Eye Wheater, holder of 6 world records, looks to add his name to the trophy. It's a book inscribed, appropriate enough, in red Moroccan leather. Well, in Brussels on the Friday night, Wheater had a pop at Steve Cram's world record. 3:46.32 was his target. Erratic placemaking and a swirling rain made that attempt unrealistic. He finished a good 3 seconds adrift, and winning not a world record is Wheater's target on his Gateshead debut. Great to see Peter Elliott back on ITV. His silver medal ahead of Cram in Seoul cost him dearly. Decided to have pain-killing injections there, did Elliott, and they've had a knock-on effect. His season started only a week ago. But this is a great chance for Peter Elliott to underline his fitness and his form to the Commonwealth Games selectors.
Yes, terrific anticipation all around the stadium for this event then. Of course, they love their distance running here in the northeast of England. It's really, or at least they will claim it, the capital of distance running and middle distance running. And they have really paid their admission money to come and see this race. And what a race it should be. It's by no means a one-man event. And incidentally, field events not quite as popular as the track up here, but Dalton Grant's changed that today.
Yes, I thought he might have called it today after that fairly bad failure at 2:40, but he's giving it another go. So often the high jump ends in failure, but it's not really failure, because with a British record under your belt, anything else will be a great bonus. Very brave attempt to do 2 metres 40, and Dalton thanks the crowd for their support, and they've loved seeing him here. And that's a really nice intro, almost, into the great Emslie Car Mile.
And there is the great man Said Awita. Currently, he holds 5 world records: 1,500 meters, 2,000 meters, 3,000 meters, 2 miles, it's a world best, and 5,000 meters. An incredible spread, and of course, remember, he went to the Olympics and came back with a medal in the 800 meters. No man in the history of the sport has proved as great as he has over such a wide range of distances. He truly will go down as one of the greatest in the sport. Peter Elliott, well, of course, he has to fight for every bit of recognition he gets, unlike Said Awita, and unlike the likes of Seb Coe and Steve Ovett and Steve Cram. Peter Elliott seems to be the guy who has to consistently go out again and prove to people that he's a great runner, but he is. And the Geordie crowd don't necessarily need to be reassured, obviously. They're right behind him. Well, I'm pleased to see that Seb Coe's dad's up here in the crowd with that little message to us. We know that Seb's one of the greatest. You don't need to tell us, Peter.
Another great Kenyan athlete, Joseph Kizeri. And another one, Nixon.
Anyway, Said Awita is a man who will have a very, very strong claim to the greatest, regardless of what happens here. And this has been set up as a world record attempt, but I think we ought to temper that with a little bit of realism. There's been a rash of world records recently, of course, and when you get a guy like this in the form he's in, then you almost expect him to break world records every time he sets foot on the track. That, of course, is totally unrealistic. As he's introduced to the crowd, totally unrealistic. You would need everything to be right. His form, the weather conditions, and the kind of competition in the field. Well, he'll certainly get that. It's a good field. 16 men altogether.
So that's the great
Mark Rowland, our Olympic bronze steeplechaser. Peter Elliott, back with his sights set on a Commonwealth Games place. Young Kevin McKay, so unlucky to lose out in the 3A's trials. And then, of course, the great Kenyans running as guests. Cheshire, Kiprotich, one of the world's top 800-meter runners. Larbi, the Moroccan, will be one of the pacemakers here, and so will Lucas Sang, another of the Kenyans.
giving you the lap time, quarter mile.
Said Awita ran 3 minutes 50 in Brussels on Friday night. Peter Elliott ran slower, but for him, a very, very encouraging time of 3 minutes 53.4 in Harlow a week ago in his first race since the Olympic Games. Remember, he's had a stress fracture to his left shin, has only had 10 weeks training. He's had a stomach upset as well this week, so he's hardly going into it ideally prepared. But this is an important race for him on Steve Cram's doorstep to reinforce his claim to the third 1,500-meter spot in England's Commonwealth Games team.
On your mark.
4 laps of the track. Tremendous anticipation all around the stadium. Remember, Larbi, number 16, and then Lucas Sang, the Kenyan, are in there to set the pace, and that's Larbi who's gone out in front, and indeed Sang has followed him, so they're immediately into their roles. There has been some extravagant pacemaking around the European scene of late, and let's hope they get some sensible pacing here. I do stress, and I don't know whether Steve Ovett would agree with me, that it's such a great world record, 346.32 Crams from 1985, that everything's got to come together, really, for it to be threatened, Steve.
Yes, it has. I mean, the conditions here are pretty good, actually, for Gateshead. Warm, it's not too windy, and the pacemakers are in there, but at the moment, most of the pack, or all of them, don't really want to chase the pacemakers. Actually, Peter Elliott's looking around here at Awita as if to say, well, come on, this is a world record attempt, that we're drifting around. And I had a funny sort of feeling that that's what Awita would do. He's been running some pretty tough races lately, and I wasn't sure whether he was going to go for a world record. But if he doesn't, then let's not make any mistakes about this. Peter Elliott will give him a good race, I think, because Peter really wants to show everybody that he's in the sort of form which will earn him that third spot. And remember, the third spot is between him and Steve Cram, so it's got a lot of proving to take, hasn't it? And I think he's out there to try and do that today.
56.8 for the first 440 yards. 14 here is Lucas Sang, the Kenyan. Number 1, Peter Elliott. Number 7, Said Awita, as the rest of the pack go through. Kiprotich, the Kenyan, moved up very significantly on that lap as well, in about 6th or 7th place at the moment. Larbi still leads. then Sang, then Elliott, then Awita, Kibet, the little Kenyan wearing number 8, is it? No, that's Chisire, in fact, the other Kenyan wearing number 8. Number 11 is Kibet, all in blue. Also in that first pack of about 6. 2 laps to go. 1:56 at 880 yards. And that was a 60-second lap.
Yes, they're going to have to really stretch it now, and I think Larby's doing this the wrong way. He's actually trying to kicking a fast third lap, and really the pace is going to have to be exceptional to get him round to the three-quarter mark at world record pace. And having kicked in hard, he's actually losing some of the other runners that are chasing. But it's going to be a very competitive race, and with a field of this size, chasing up into what is a respectable pace, we're going to have some fireworks over the last lap. Peter's looking really good at the moment, and Awita really can't afford to let him have too much of a say on this last lap.
Larby's just dropped out, leaving Sang in front. And I think now we can forget the record, but look forward to a terrific last lap. Chisire in the lead, number 8. 1 is Peter Elliott. 7 is Side Awita. Mark Rowland's running well there in 4th place. Then Joe Falcon, the American guy, number 9, all in white. Then Kibet of Kenya, and then Harrison having a good run as well. 2:56.79 at the bell. Chisire of Kenya, Elliott, Great Britain, Awita, Morocco, Rowland, Great Britain, Kibet, Kenya, Falcon, United States. They're the first 6. Falcon struggling to keep with this pace down the back straight. Peter Elliott will be so pleased with the way the race has gone for him so far. 200 metres to go. Joseph Chisire, who paced Side Awita in his world record attempt on Friday night, leading here. Elliott 2nd, Awita 3rd, Rowland having a great run in 4th, Kibet 5th, and here goes Elliott, and Awita has responded. Awita has to run very wide into lane 3. Elliott in the middle, but Awita's got it. Awita will win. Chisire 2nd, Elliott 3rd. 3:52.47 as Rowland was 4th, Kibet 5th, Falcon 6th. So, Side Awita, who clearly wasn't really interested in having another crack at the world record, the conditions and probably fatigue as well. He's been running an awful lot lately against him, but he is, above all other things, a real competitor, and he didn't want to lose.
But let's hand it to Peter Elliott, and only his 2nd race of the year. I've timed him in 3 minutes 52.9, and that's very fine running, and he's obviously on his way back because, of course, Steve Awita's had a full racing programme.
That's right. I don't think really at the end of the day that the winner was in question really, because Awita's had a terrific season, and he really just played with the field there. I think looking at the replay, maybe we can see that Peter was looking around, I think, a little bit too much. If he had that much in hand, I think maybe he should have gone earlier. He was waiting for Awita, and you shouldn't really do that. I think if you stand a chance of beating this guy, you must just give it everything you've got, because he's going to be coming. And around that last bend, Awita moved out into lane 3 and just started moving away. He looked across there, and I think he knew he had it, and just really powered away down his home straight. But Peter now poses this awful problem to the selectors, isn't it? I mean, who do you select now, Peter Elliott or Steve Cram? It's a difficult choice. Steve Cram obviously being the double Commonwealth gold medalist, and yet Peter obviously having better performances at the last Olympic Games. So this is the sort of problem that selectors have when you have the first 2 past the post, and our top 2 or 2 of our top men don't actually take part in that event. But their Side, I think he's just come here for the race and just wanted to win it. Didn't really want to go for the world record, but still a great time, and he looks as if he's just been out for a stroll, really.
That was the 37th Emslie Carmile, Awita's first ever, and he joins that illustrious list of former Olympic champions, including Steve Ovett himself, Seb Coe, John Walker, Kip Kano, Jim Ryan, who won this prestigious title. Incidentally, I think we should mention what a smashing run as well by Mark Rowland in there for Britain. So, more action to come from Gateshead. Rejoin us after a break.
This year, Peter, and I would think you must be well pleased with that run against Side Awita.
I'm very pleased. I wanted to come here today and sort of do something to justify again the 3rd spot for the Commonwealth team. Probably a little bit disappointed that I didn't get near to Saeed, but you know, it's just one of those things. It's nice to be back competing.
After all the injuries you've had, we don't want to be hypercritical of you, but I think Steve Ovett made a point. You might just have been watching Side a bit too much coming around the final bend.
I think I was. I really wanted him. I wanted to be on his shoulder, and you know, his tactician, he sat on me. So I think ideally I probably was watching a bit too much for him, worrying about him. But I started to make me move here, and I thought I was going to go down the Kenyan, but it was just too strong, and Saeed came down. But I'm just a bit race rusty at the moment.
I know you've been watching a lot of the athletics on ITV with your feet up. I would think, how frustrating has all that been for you?
It's been quite frustrating. At least this year I have watched all the athletics. It's not as if I just switched over or anything like that. I have watched it all, obviously with interest as well as the Commonwealth is going. But you know, it's just unfortunate athletes do get injured, and it's occupational hazards.
I've got to ask you one more question. You do get embroiled in these political situations, don't you? How do you feel the Commonwealth Games selectors are going to view you now?
I don't know, it's entirely in their hands. You know, I've been sat at home for 10 months and nobody's worried, and then I come out again and then suddenly I'm in the middle of the controversy. It's entirely the selectors. Either they give me the nod or they say when Steve Cram's right, you know, we'll have a run-off sort of November, December, and it's entirely up to them.
Great to see you back, Peter. We're going to get back to the action in just a moment. Let's just take a check on the women's score, the match score, see how things are looking. And England well clear. 125, Italy 93, and Oceania on 47, and just 3 events to go there. Let's get back to the action.
The 4x100 metres for women is the next event on the track. And really, in all honesty, the match has been a bit of a non-event as a competitive contest. Incidentally, harking back to the Emslie Car Mile, that was the fastest winning time ever since Kip Keino in 1966. Italy, lane 3, Oceania 4, England, lane 5. Leslie Ann Skeet runs the first leg for England. Leslie Ann Skeet, one of our top sprint hurdlers. Gainsford, the Australian, going for Oceania in the middle. The Italian has been left well behind already, so it's a two-horse race, so to speak, even at this stage. Wendy Addison running the second leg here for England. The Italian's well out of it. The third leg will be run by Diane Glazebrook. So it's England against Oceania. The Italians have picked up a little on that leg. And suddenly Ferrian brings them back into the picture. Glazebrook struggling to stay with the Australian on her inside. But Paula Dunn took the baton a long way down. And having written the Italians off, they suddenly get themselves into a position where they could win it here, but have to settle for second place behind Oceania. Well, it was a disappointing performance by the England team. But of course, in fairness, it's far and away a makeshift squad, and one that was rather hastily put together. And they won't have had any opportunity really to practice together. And I think that showed in that race. Oceania winning it, Italy second, and England, having been well clear on the first 2 legs of the Italians, finished well behind them. It's Wendy Addison to Diane Glazebrook here. Not a very good change, and Diane found it hard. And then the final change over to Paula Dunn, I suspect, was even worse. Ferrian running well there for the Italians. That's what changed the picture completely for them. But here, Glazebrook to Dunn. And she had to wait an awful long time. And that's where we lost it, Steve.
Yes, that was a very bad changeover, but I think even before that we were well behind Alan. As you say, it's a bit of a scratch team. The whole of the match, I must admit, has been a bit of sort of a scratch type event. But having said that, it gives some of the athletes good practice to get out there and do the event without any pressure on them, really, I suppose.
And still to come from us here at Gateshead, they're going to be going for a pretty quick men's 4x200 metres relay. We're going to take a look at Daley Thompson as well. Daley preparing for a big decathlon coming up in France in a couple of weeks' time. But now it's the British Rail Men's Sprinter Trophy final, the 100 metres, and that's Linford Christie really against the best of the rest.
Britain's #1 sprinter, Linford Christie, goes in lane 4 in this 100 metres, which is actually for the British Rail Sprinter Trophy, and it's a trophy that he's won several times before, Linford. And really, although it's not part of the match, this is the highest quality lineup of the day. Marcus Adam, the 21-year-old United Kingdom champion, runs in lane 3. And then on the other side of Christie in lane 5 is John Regis. And really good men in every lane. Jason Neuron, Addy Maffey, Marcus Adam, Linford Christie, John Regis, Lincoln Asquith, Tony Jarrett. Interesting to see how he goes, the high hurdler, and Lenny Paul completes the lineup in lane 8. Christie in good form at the moment, ran well in Brussels on Friday night. And all the way first time, despite the problems they had with the block before the race. Christie leading the field here. Mackey's going very well, and then Adam between them. It's Linford Christie emphasising his #1 position once again. Jarrett ran splendidly as well. 10.44 the time. Christie winning it. Adam got second, and I think Jarrett was third. And that's a terrific performance by Jarrett if he's confirmed in that position. We'll look again at the replay, but Christie dominated from the start. Always likes to go out and prove once again that he is the British #1, and did so here. Fourth from the right, Linford Christie.
Well, in a domestic field, really, he does dominate this, and he did dominate it almost from the word go here. Looking at the other boys, it's very difficult from this angle to see the placings because they're so close at the moment. But Jarrett in the all-black suit on the second outside lane there, we think does come through. Possibly even get second here, Alan, I think. We can't see it, won't move on. Yes, oh, it's a photo, but very close between him and Marcus Adam for the second and third places there. And in fourth place there, I think maybe a little bit disappointing, John Regis.
Well, Linford has proved himself superior once again. The fourth time now he's won that British Rail Sprinter Trophy, and that always means a lot to him. Here's the head-on view of Linford Christie's superb style. Number 2, Marcus Adam, who's better over 200 metres, running very well over the shorter distance. Number 3, John Regis, bit disappointing. He was last in Brussels on Friday, over 200 metres. He must be a bit concerned about his form at the moment, John. But Linford is rounding into good shape.
And the result was a win for Linford Christie in 10.44. In fact, those are our 4 sprint relay members. Marcus Adams second, Tony Jarrett third, and John Regis fourth, just ahead of Lincoln Asquith, 10.73. The time's a little slow, but they were running into a wind of minus 0.96 metres per second. But a good win by Christie there. And good to see Adam, Jarrett,
well,
and
Linford Christie really, thanks Peter, running into form at just about the right time with that World Cup coming up. Now let's take a look at Daley Thompson. Daley, as I just said, all set for his first decathlon since Seoul, coming up in France in a few weeks' time. He's asked for 3 special events at this Kodak Classic to improve his speed and his sharpness.
And the first of those events was 110-metre hurdles. That was going to be followed then by a 100 metres and a 300 metres. Just 4 competitors, as well as Daley Thompson. On the inside, there's Jay Torson of America, then Steve Odgers outside, and the very promising Mark Bishop. Second Englishman, in fact, of 400-metre hurdles. Daley away well there. Hasn't been competing very much this year. It's a bit rusty, needs to get some competitive sharpness, and this is the sort of race. But Jay Torson of America coming through to win. Mark Bishop just ahead of Daley, but not a bad run by Daley. A little bit down, obviously, on the sort of best form he can do. He can get close to 14 seconds, and that time must have been around about 14.7. The 2 Americans, incidentally, Jay Torson and Steve Odgers, both come from California, training mates of Daley when he goes out and trains every winter, every spring in the Californian sunshine. Let's look again at Daley. Really, he's been competing for his club, Newham and Essex Beagles, at Southern League level. That's for their B team. He's been throwing the discus quite a bit, a little bit of sprinting, but hasn't done much work over some of the events, like the hurdles, so he needs a few races to get sharp before he tackles that decathlon in a couple of weeks' time in Talence. And then, of course, he'll be trying to go and win an unprecedented 4th Commonwealth gold medal. And who would bet against him doing it? Not a bad run there, 14.74 in the 110 metres hurdles. So that was the first of these 3 events, and he then came up an hour later to do the 100 metres. This time he's running in lane 4. Again, Torson inside him, Odgers and Bishop outside. Certainly look out for Mark Bishop too. He may well be our next 8,000-point decathlete. Already the 2nd British athlete in the 3As at 400-metre hurdles, so he knows he's going to go to the Commonwealth anyway, and he'll be doing the decathlon trial next week. Oh, Daley away very fast indeed, ahead of the Americans. Torson and Odgers either side. Daley beginning to look much better now, coming through. Bishop struggling hard. Daley going away. Not as good as the sort of times, of course, we've become accustomed to see him running in the very big decathlons. when he runs times of 10.3, 10.4 and so, but it's beginning to come back, and Daley will be glad to get back into a competitive environment. And 10.87 takes him into the lead on points in this 3-event competition. The 100 metres is the first event of the 10 events of the decathlon, which is spread over 2 days. It's followed by the long jump, and we've got used to seeing Daley get off to a cracking start in all his major events by winning the 100 metres, then doing very well in the long jump to build up a big lead on his competitors. It's the 100 metres that he's sharpening up for, practicing here, and he comes through to win by something like 2.5 to 3 metres. Odgers second, Bishop third, and Thorsen in fourth place. So got the pole vault with Andy Ashurst there, but we'll come back to that perhaps later. And here is Daley Thompson on the track for the final event of this 3-event, a triathlon event, specially staged for him. This is the 300 metres. The same lineup as for each of the events. He runs in lane 4, Jay Thorsen inside him, Steve Odgers outside him, and Mark Bishop in lane 6. I think Bishop will be the one he's got to keep his eyes on here, because Bishop is in tremendous form at 400 metres and at 400 metre hurdles. Bishop, in fact, really well up the British ranking list at 400 metres this year, having run 46.49. I don't think that's the sort of time Thompson's going to get close. 300 metres has often been a good event for him. Personal best about 33.9. An odd event, of course, but it's good practice, and that's what it's all about for Daley at the moment. Good off. Daley's off to a good start. He's ahead at the moment. Bishop going well outside, though, and now Thompson's got Bishop's back to go for. Thompson building up the stagger a little bit on Odgers, leaving Thorsen, the other American, quite well behind. Daley Thompson, who started his career by winning 3A's junior titles at 200 metres indoors, always been a good 400 metre runner. But we've got another man who hoping to go with Daley to the Commonwealth Games team for the decathlon. That's Mark Bishop coming in to win this race. Steve Odgers in second place, Daley Thompson third, and the winning time for Mark Bishop was 33.85. So I suppose Thompson must have been around 35 seconds there. And the 3-event series will be determined by a look at the points tables. There aren't official ones for 300 metres. They'll probably have to devise some for that. And it could be that Bishop and Thompson will be a bit close overall. Let's have a look at it again in slow motion. Thompson quite pleased with his efforts here, because obviously he's not really sharp yet. But the decathlon in 2 weeks' time will provide the spur to him to get ready, and then the big build-up will start for that Commonwealth title, we hope, in Auckland. Daley Thompson, of course, the world's greatest ever decathlete, with 3 Commonwealth gold medals, 2 Olympic gold medals, 2 European gold medals, 3 world records behind him. And it really is still good to see him keen to compete again. Mark Bishop, the winner of that race. Now, we saw Andy Ashurst a little bit earlier. Here is a chance to have a look at his attempt at 5 metres 25. Third time. We saw him do 5.27 in the GRE Cup last week. Oh, yes. And it's an intriguing battle here between Andy Edwards and Mike Edwards, battling for supremacy in British pole vaulting, and today Andy Ashurst has gone ahead. Mike Edwards did 5.20, and Andy Ashurst is on his way back towards his best form, personal best of 5 metres 40. He was the Commonwealth champion in Edinburgh in 1986, and after some disappointing results, most particularly in the 3As, when he was a mere 9th at 4 metres 80, and thereby didn't get one of the guaranteed slots in the team. Surely he's absolutely assured of that now, and he's back on top of British pole vaulting. The winner, in fact, was Pegoraro of Italy at 5.30, and Ashurst won the domestic battle ahead of the 2 men who beat him in the 3As, Mike Edwards and Ian Tullett.
Let's keep the action rolling for you from us here in Gateshead with the women's 1,500 metres. Chris Cahill will get great local support. Alison Wyeth has been going pretty well recently.
The lineup for the women's 1,500 metres. 7 in the field, and really there's an interesting clash here between Alison Wyeth and Christina Cahill of England. 3 3/4 laps of the track. The situation is that Wyeth, who's already on the Commonwealth team over 3,000 metres, finished second in the Women's 3A's Championships in the 1,500 metres as well, but she didn't have the qualifying mark of 4 minutes 8.5 set by the Women's 3A's. So officially, until she gets that mark, she can't be picked. Now, Christina Cahill, who for many years has been our leading middle distance runner, now 32, was 7th in those championships, but she did have the qualifying time from the previous year in the Olympic Games. So I would think the selectors will be looking long and hard at who does best out of those two in this race before filling in the 3rd spot for Auckland. The leader here is a guest runner and a late addition to the field, Caroline Shawallow, the Australian. Moving up now, number 2, Alison Wyeth, the taller of the 3 English athletes in the field, because there's also a guest runner here in the green shorts, Gillian Dainty, in 3rd place. So it's Shawallow, Wyeth, Dainty, then Cahill, and then the 2 Italians, Gazzetta, and the Italian with the bunched hair is Alisa Ray. 65 seconds for the first 400 metres, so it's going to be a competitive race, Steve.
Yes, it is, and don't forget that the qualifying time that they're after is 4 minutes, 8.5 seconds. So Alison moves into the lead here quite rightly, because I think she knows that any drop in pace will make a significant difference at this stage of the race to the finishing time. But having said that, all of the other girls are chasing her, so she's on a tough race here at the moment.
Wyeth leads, Dainty 2nd, Cahill 3rd, Shawallow 4th, then it's Gazzetta 5th. Also 2 Oceania representatives in this race. The Australian champion Liz Rose wears number 5, just running wide of the other Australian, Marie McDonough, wearing number 6. 2 to go then. Wyeth still leading, the 25-year-old, who's had a very good year. And actually worked for the International Amateur Athletics Federation.
The time actually wasn't too bad through the half there. Slowed slightly, I think, to a 70-second lap, just under 70 seconds, but biting into a wind here, Alison, so she's really got to cut out to keep the pace going. But having said that, looking on our shoulder is Chris Cahill, number 1 there, and she'll be just out to prove a point by actually trying to win this race, not actually going for the time, but it's going to be a fairly tough last lap if they're going to get this qualifying time out.
Leading as they come into the...
Christina Cahill, who won the Commonwealth Games way back in 1982 and had that great run in the Olympics in Seoul last year, where she just missed out on a bronze medal. Cahill number 1, Wyeth, the taller girl, number 2. Also going well still is Dainty in 3rd place, then Shawallow is 4th, then Gazzetta of Italy 5th, and they're a long way clear of the rest as they approach the bell.
Time still good.
3:06 at the bell. Wyeth leads, Cahill 2nd, Dainty 3rd.
From number 7.
The time of 3:06 means they're going to have to run exceptionally fast for this last lap to do it. And looking at Alison at the moment, she's looking quite tired, so I don't think she's going to get the time here, Alan, but it's going to be a competitive race.
And Cahill is looking fresh, right on her shoulder. Dainty on the inside, mustn't be discounted either. She was 4th in the Women's 3A's Championships. Now 13, Gillian Dainty. She was silver medalist in the Commonwealths to Christina Cahill, in fact, back in 1982. And a resurgence of form for her in this race. Under 200 to go. Wyeth, Cahill, Dainty. Those 3 clear of the rest now. And running possibly for a Commonwealth Games place over 1,500 metres here. Cahill, now based here in the northeast, fighting hard, getting the home support, but Wyeth is determined. Wyeth will battle her all the way to the line, but Cahill just gets in front when it matters. Cahill first, Wyeth 2nd, Dainty 3rd, Shawallow 4th. 4:10.82, the winning time.
And there was confirmation for 10.8 for Christina Cahill, Alison Wyeth for 11.26, and Gillian Dainty 3rd, but good to see Cahill back with much her fastest time of the year. Women's match result, a clear win for England, 1:47 from Italy and Oceania 3rd. And the latest men's standings, this was just 2 events, the javelin and the 4x4 to go, England leading by 1:59 from Italy, 1:32, and Oceania back at 62.
The men's 4x400 metre relay. We've got 2 England teams in the lineup here, so plenty of domestic interest. Oceania will run in lane 2. The England A team, consisting of Peter Crampton, Chris Akabusi, Derek Redmond and Phil Brown in 3. Italy in 4. England B, Steve Thomas, Paul Sanders, Mark Morris, Gary Cadogan, lane 5. And Scotland have a team: Jim Nichol, David Strang, Mark Davidson and Mark Fulton, lane 6. Lanes 1, 7 and 8 are empty. This is Peter Crampton, the Yorkshire athlete who ran well, played his part on this very track in the European Cup final success, and who can forget that stirring final event, this 4x400 metre relay, which clinched Britain victory in that quite memorable weekend of athletics.
Set.
Crampton admitted he was on a real high for days after that and found it very difficult, like so many of the British team, to come down to earth again. Peter Crampton, the 20-year-old former European junior champion from Yorkshire, who missed the best part of a year through serious injury. England B team have gone off quite well, actually, in lane 5. Crampton will hold hand on rather to Chris Akabusi. Remember, it's always a little bit misleading on the first leg of 4x400 metres to pick out who is exactly in which position. When they break from lanes at the start of the back straight this time round, you get a better idea. Certainly the England B team are going well, as indeed are the England A team. Crampton handing on to Akabusi. This Akabusi really loves the relay. Gets a terrific buzz from the atmosphere and from the team spirit in this situation. Always a great optimist as well. Always believes England are going to win, no matter who the opposition. So Akabusi heading off the challenge from Paul Sanders, and at the moment the two English teams well out in front. Derek Redmond takes over the back for the third leg for the England A team, with Mark Morris running on the third leg for England B. Now, it's an important little run this for Derek Redmond. Ran for his club Birchfield Harriers in the GRE Cup final last week. Only 47 seconds, but it was the start of a way back, and he won the race and was never threatened. Rather, he won his part in the relay there for Birchfield. Himself coming back from serious injury. Getting caught a bit here by Mark Morris. Redmond well short of race sharpness. Bill Brown takes over and will be quite happy to let Gary Cadogan go in front.
There's a time Derek Redmond in 46.9, so very similar to last week.
So it's a real domestic battle here. England B leading, England A in second place. Then it's the Scots third, Oceania fourth, the Italians fifth. Bill Brown's got a bit of work to do here, but he does like to attack from this position. Gary Cadogan will know that he'll hear the thunder of Brown's footsteps soon, and here they come. Cadogan's going to determinedly hang on in there, but it was very smooth finish from Brown that wins it for England A. England B second, then Oceania third, Scotland fourth, Italy fifth. 3 minutes 5.83. A very, very confident and smooth anchor leg by Phil Brown.
46 seconds for him.
Steve?
Well, it's remarkable, isn't it? You give Phil Brown a baton in his hand, and he's a totally different runner. I mean, I just don't know what it is about him. He seems to be more confident. He seems to be able to cope with all the situations that tactics and whatever play in the last leg, and seems to be enjoying himself. I think maybe if he does that, then maybe they should give him a baton when he starts the individual, and hopefully we'll see a different runner, because he's got the talent there. I mean, that was amply shown in that last leg, but unfortunately just doesn't seem to demonstrate it in the flat.
Yes, I wonder if that would be allowed. Could you run with a baton in the individual 400 metres? It does seem to have a tremendous psychological effect on him, the relay. You're quite right, and he's the first to realise and admit that. But in latter weeks, he's been proving a very good individual 400-metre runner as well, and he's looking very assured at the moment, very assured indeed.
One. Throw to go.
So the England A team duly take their place on the winners' rostrum. and another lap of honour for them.
Well, still to come the 4x200 metres. Let's mark your card what's coming up in the next few weeks, though.
On Friday night, Monte Carlo's our venue for the Grand Prix final, the climax to a glittering series of worldwide meetings. September 8, 9 and 10, Britain's men chase World Cup glory in Barcelona. Extensive coverage here on ITV and Channel 4. Friday night, September the 15th, we're at Crystal Palace to round off the season with the McVitie's Challenge.
There we go, all those events waiting for you. Should be a good climax to the season of that McVitie's Challenge at Crystal Palace, and we're off for a spot of sunshine at the end of the week in Monte Carlo with the Grand Prix final there. A lot of dollars being paid out at that fabulous stadium in Monaco on Friday night, and of course Barcelona, what a meeting that should be. Linford Christie leading the British men there to Barcelona after the great triumphs they had here in Gateshead, what, a few weeks ago. Glad to say that the conditions are staying pretty good for the 4x200 metres coming up in a few minutes.
Well, there has been some suggestion that it could be improved here in this race today, but frankly, I somehow doubt that. The lineup for this 4x200 metre relay for men, the final event of the day. Italy run in lane 3, Oceania in lane 4, the England A team lane 5, and the England B team in lane 6. There's no question that England have got on paper, England A, a very, very talented quartet here in Tony Jarrett, Addy Maffey, Marcus Adam and John Regis. But quite honestly, like the Santa Monica team, found really you've got to run very, very well to get inside that mark. Just set 5 days ago, 1 minute 19.38. Remember, the Santa Monica team are literally that. They're a club team as well, so they get plenty of opportunity to run together, train together, practice together. And as we've said so often, that is just as important in relay racing as the ability to run quickly as an individual. England B are also in the race here, by the way, with Clarence Callender, Lincoln Asquith, Mike Ray and Darren Braithwaite. So, Steve, it has been said in some quarters, indeed, there is a big cash prize of $50,000 if they break that world record, but I can't really see it happening, can you?
No, I think you can be brave, really, when you think the chances are pretty slim. I mean, they could up that probably to about $1 million, I think. When you consider, I mean, looking at it logically, when you consider that the Santa Monica Club are almost, I would say, a USA team, and when you consider that John Regis, our best, or supposedly our best 200-metre runner at the moment, finished last in his last race in Brussels, then it puts it in perspective, I think. And I think on a not so, you know, bad day here at Gateshead, but I wouldn't say the conditions are absolutely perfect for fast running, and the Gateshead track itself is not all that notorious for fast sprinting, but you know, I think you can safely say that they'll run well, but I don't think they get anywhere near the world record, Alan.
That's actually Clarence Callender in the foreground, wearing number 7, who will lead off the England B team. And as I say, they've got a strong team as well. But obviously the main interest, the performance of the England A team. Tony Jarrett runs the first leg for them. I must say he has proved himself to be a very classy sprinter in the last 7 days. He ran in the GRE Cup final, there he is, Jarrett, a week ago in the 200 metres for his club Haringey. And he very nearly beat the United Kingdom champion Marcus Adam. Adam really had to fight hard to hold him off. Today we saw him running well and finishing 3rd, I think it was, in the individual 100 metres. So clearly, although he's one of the world's best as a high hurdler, he is also an outstandingly good sprinter on the flat. So I would think he'll produce something a bit quick here. And then he's got Addy Maffey, the European indoor champion, to hand on to. There's Addy. And then Marcus Adam, who has had a terrific year. And also looked back to something like his early season best earlier today. John Regis, the anchor leg, who's got a hamstring injury, I gather, and has therefore not really been running to his best in the last couple of days. The men's 4x200 metres relay. Italy, lane 3, Oceania 4, England A 5, England B, lane 6. delay because, of course, you have to check that all the other runners and all the other officials dotted all around the track are ready. I think it'll be a new experience for most people, athletes and officials, because this is not an event that's held often at all. But it is an official world record distance.
Perhaps rather than the world record, we should have as our target the British record, 1:21.29.
Yes, I think that's a lot more realistic. So away they go then in this 4 by 200 metres relay, the first two legs of which are run in lanes. England A in lane 5, second from the left, England B outside of them. And I think Peter Matthews will have his ever reliable watch on Tony Jarrett.
Broken Alan.
Well, it's not ever reliable then, obviously. Addy Matthews running the second leg here, and under some real pressure from Lincoln Asquith. Well, it was a bit like Lincoln Asquith. They might have changed the order there. Maffey on to Marcus Adam. And that didn't look a very smooth change. There has been another change here because that's clearly John Regis, so they've changed the order at the last minute and fooled us all. So I assume that Adam, that looks like him, waiting. Oh, and again, it wasn't a very smooth changeover. And that is not Adam either, so there's been another change around. So we watch the clock ticking away. It looks like Mike Ray as Oceania has suddenly come into the picture here, and he's tying up badly. And it's obviously well outside the hyped-up attempt on any kind of world record. And there were all manner of late changes in both the England A and B teams there. It was not at all the advertised quartet. And if that team had won the $50,000 and broken the world record, they would have deserved another $50,000 on top.
So it's a disappointing run really there, but rather better form has been shown in some of the field events today. And we can now take a look at an event which has just happened. This is the javelin, and here's the first round with Mick Hill in action. So Mick Hill with the lead, then held at 73.34 by Mark Roberson. And this was Hill's first throw, 77 metres 16. But just while that last race was going on, Mick Hill in fact improved with a tremendous throw of 82 metres 56. His best throw of the year, his previous best 82.28, and that's another world-class performance. We haven't got Steve Backley here, of course. He's at the World Student Games, but Mick Hill won the javelin with that last effort of 82.56, following his early lead at 77.16. Meanwhile, 10 men broke 4 minutes in the Emslie Car Mile. Saida Wita, the winner, 3:51.97. Joseph Chizuri of Kenya, 3:52.46. Then Peter Elliott, 3:52.93, and Mark Rowland, 3:54.34. But also Halliday and Mackay also under 4 minutes. Now, a couple of other results we hadn't seen before. The women's 400-metre hurdles, Wendy Kearns, 57.60, and Gauri Rechikan completing a 1-2 for England with 59.26 in second. And the women's hurdles, season's best for both Leslie Ann Skeet, 13.25, and Kim Hagger, 13.35, well ahead of Lombardo of Italy.
So Jean Alesi wins the Birmingham Super Prix. No holding back Saida Wita when he put his foot down going down the final straight, or keeping down the high-flying Dalton Grant, another British record for him. From us all, a very good afternoon to you.
torn curtain.